right, my dears, welcome, day 7. Poor Pamela. we are doing some back bends today. So just a note of caution, if you've ever had a low back injury, you're going to do this very gently. You're going to do it a little bit. All these poses a little bit. Now, Pamela's a good model for this because she does have a back injury. So the important thing is to remember always to have your legs engaged. Squeeze your glutes, squeeze your quads. Extend your hips, like we've learned how to do that. So I'll always be cueing it to keep you safe, but we're just going to proceed a little bit with caution because we're not in the room with you helping you. All right, so come to your belly and just stack one hand on top of the other and put your forehead right on top of your hands. And feel into your spine. Your feet can flop out wide. They don't need to be, anywhere in particular. Notice that there's a little bit of a tiny back bend in your upper spine here just by having your head on your hands, yeah? All right, so let's practice that engagement of the legs. So squeeze your legs. It doesn't have to be like a death grip. You just want your tailbone tucking under a little bit, your glutes engaged, your quads engaged, so that your low back stays steady. Now come up to your elbows. Bring your elbows underneath your shoulders. This is called Sphinx pose. You can picture the Sphinx there in the desert in Egypt. And Pamela, just bring your feet a little wider. Give yourself some space between your feet. That feels better. Okay. So keeping that engagement in your legs, traction your elbows toward you a little bit. Pull the floor toward you and send your heart forward. And immediately, I think you'll feel something right in your mid-back, right? The space between your shoulder blades is getting challenged a little bit. You're squeezing in the place in your mid-spine that extends that mid part of your spine, right? So this is Sphinx pose. You can release it, go a little easier there. And then walk your hands back underneath your shoulders. We're just going to try this back bending in a bunch of different positions. So again, engage your legs, find that strength in your legs, and lift your chest up here. This is called cobra pose. So you don't need to land a lot of weight into your palms. You could be this far off the floor. You could be much lower. Yeah, it could look like this more. And again, traction your hands back toward you. Send your heart forward and feel the work in the back of your spine and the opening in the front of your spine. And then come on down. You can put your head down on one side and bring your arms beside you. So in between back bends, we always come to neutral. You don't want to come all the way to the opposite, to forward fold. That's too much of a shock for your spine sometimes. A recipe for injury or a possibility of injury. So just turn your head the other way for a moment. Keep your neck nice and even. The last back bend that we're going to do here is called locust virabhadrasana. Not virabhadrasana. What's the Sanskrit? I don't know. Engage your legs. Squeeze your legs. Put your palms down on the floor. No, keep your arms behind you. And then lift your palms up and lift your heart up. So you got airplane arms. Your whole back body is engaged. If you want to lift your legs up, that's fine. When I first started doing yoga, I came into this pose, I was like, this can't be what you mean. I just had so little back body strength. So if you're feeling that, I understand. One more inhale and exhale, come all the way down. Rock your hips around side to side, shimmy. You always want to relieve your low back, bend your knees and windshield wipe your feet. It's a really nice way to give your low back some relief. All righty. When you're ready, you're going to bring your hands under your shoulders and press up to tabletop, hands and knees. Take a couple of cat and cows here to mobilize your low back. So inhaling, dropping your belly. Exhaling, reversing that curve of your spine, back of your heart lifts. Inhale, belly drops. Exhale, belly lifts. So this is your back bend position. And then this is your forward fold position. Okay, come to neutral. And then press back to downward facing dog. Curl your toes under and lift your hips up. You can walk your feet out side to side. And just feel the relief for your low back. All right. From here, We're coming into a low lunge with the right leg forward. So if you have the belly strength to just sweep your right leg forward to the front of the mat, you can do that and drop your left knee down. You can get there in a much less elegant way. That's fine. And then come on up. You might need to roll the side of your mat up or put like a blanket or a pillow underneath that back knee if that feels too bony on the floor. Now you might be, so Pamela, shift your hips back. You might be more like straight up and down here, depending on how much mobility you have in your hip flexors, or you might be at a big diagonal. Doesn't matter. It's all the same. Okay? To the degree that you can pull your hips forward and down, great. That's a big hip flexor stretch on that left hip. Now put your right hand on your right hip like Pamela has, and then your left arm is going to reach up straight. So you've got a beautiful lift on that whole left side body. That back leg is really engaged, pressing into the floor. The knee is pressing down, the back foot is pressing down, the front foot is pressing down. From that engagement, strong engagement in the legs and the floor, get a little bit of a back bend happening. And then if you like, you can lift the other arm up as well. The arms can be wide. You can interlace the fingers and send the palms high, whatever feels good, but keep pressing down. So much strength in the legs, and you're walking up the opening, up the front body and the spine. You can look up, you can look a little bit back. 3, 2, release the hands, start to come back to neutral, and press on back. You can just switch legs, nothing too fancy. This pose can be really potent. If you got a little bit dizzy from that, just pause, maybe a little forward fold, give yourself a few breaths. This releases all the things that get stuck when we sit at the computer all day. All right, so here we are in the lunge on the second side. Could feel really different, right? Pamela's like immediately going for those right hip flexors. What's going on in the front of that hip? That was day 2, right? So press, before we go anywhere, press everything into the floor. You'll feel that rebound right up into that right hip. Press the knee down, the back foot down, the front foot down, left hand on left hip, and then lift the right arm up. So you get a little bit of a side stretch here. Can start to, from leg strength, start to open the front body, squeeze the back body, and then maybe both arms lift. You can stay with one if you prefer, or lift both. You can interlace. You could interlace your hands behind your head if you like. So many beautiful things you can do with your arms. Keep coming back to the floor, pressing down, pressing down, pressing down as you squeeze your shoulder blades together and lift your heart. Maybe lift your chin, lift your gaze. 3, 2, slowly come up. Hands come down, and you're going to make your way to a forward fold. So just you can step that back foot forward and forward fold at the front of your mat. Bend your knees a lot here. That will help your low back release. Yum, yum, yum. Alrighty, slowly come on up. And we're going to come into Warrior 1. We've done this pose a few times now. Right foot forward, left foot back. That back foot is at a 45-degree angle. Maybe you need a little bit of space between your feet. So we never talked about the fact that this pose is a bit of a back bend, right? We did it as a hip flexor opener. So we're going to square the hips forward. Always want the hips forward for this. Hands can be wherever you want. Classically, your arms would be up by your ears. And from leg strength, let's build this into a back bend. Pressing down both legs so much. You're going to start to lift your chin, expand the distance between your pelvis and your low ribs. Your collarbones lift, your chin lifts, maybe your gaze lifts. Legs are super strong here. 3, 2, slowly come back up. Hands can come down. Can we do another pose on this side? Does that feel all right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to take it into a little tricky thing that's going to put a lot of the things we've been doing together. So you're going to start off with your right hand on your right hip. That right knee is bent. Now the back heel can stay down like in Warrior 1, or if you prefer, you can lift that hip up, that heel up, and be more in a lunge. Either way to do this pose. This is called Revolved Reversed Warrior. You're gonna lift that left arm up like we did in our low lunge. Take a little side body stretch. Now take a little twist, left ribs forward, right ribs back. You can put your right hand on the back of that left thigh if you want, or wrap it around, or keep it on that hip, wherever you want. And now let's add the smallest little back bend here. Heart lifts, little bit of a back bend if you have it. 3, 2, and slowly come out. I love that pose. It's very complicated, but it feels really good. Okay. Take it over to the other side. If you need a forward fold in between, by all means, pause it up, pause the video, take a forward fold. Left foot forward in warrior one. Square your hips. Root the legs. So much strength in the legs, pressing down so you feel it go right up into your hips and even into your spine. Arms lift when you're ready, your variation, and start to build a little back bend. From the leg strength, from the rootedness of the legs, increasing the length of the front of your spine and squeezing your back. 4. You don't have to drop your head back if it doesn't feel good in your neck. You can keep your head lifted. 2. One more inhale and exhale, slowly release. All right, we'll do our revolved reverse here. If you want to take some time in between, go right ahead. Going to bend again into the front knee, left heel up or down. Left hand on left hip, right arm reaches high. So find your lateral stretch, a little bit of a side stretch, find your twist. Place your hand around behind if you like, and then start to add a little bit of a back bend here. Look at you go. 3, 2, and slowly release. So if you'd like, keep your feet nice and wide. A forward fold in Prasarita would be nice. Just spin your heels out. Heels out, toes in, bend your knees, and forward fold. Prasarita Padottanasana would be grabbing your big toes if you want, or just hang your head down, put your hands wherever you like them. Bend your knees a lot to feel the relief in your low back. Okay, we're warm enough now that we're going into back bends forward folds between our back bends, but just go slowly on these transitions. Slowly come to standing. Bring your feet together, and we're going to do one more standing back bend, a simple standing back bend. So your feet want to be at least hip width apart, probably wider. Heels out. The reason heels are out is it configures your sacrum, that testy joint where your spine meets your pelvis. It's a tongue and groove joint. I think I wrote about this in one of the emails. It gets mad. So having your heels out actually gives it more space than having your heels in. Engage your legs. Squeeze those glutes. It's going to extend the front of your hips, and there you are, starting in your back bend. You don't need to go far here. Hands can stay at your hips. Heart lifts. If you want to lift your arms, you can, but they can stay right where they are. Collarbones lift from leg strength. Gaze lifts. 3. So much leg strength. Heart's lifting, lifting, lifting all the way from your toes. 2. Big inhale and exhale. Come up to neutral. Just stand in your neutral. You can release that squeeze of your glutes. Bend your knees and put your hands on your thighs. And just take a couple cat and cow actions there in your back. Release that low back here. Yeah. Even try, Pamela, try extending your elbows. Yeah, there you go. That's it. Nice. Okay. We're gonna do camel, sorry. We're gonna do one kneeling back bend. And this one you're gonna do very gently. So just come to your knees. Your feet can be unfolded like that, or knees or toes tucked under, however you feel more stable. And your knees can be nice and wide so you feel very stable. Hands are going to come to your low back. And we're going to do the same kind of back bending we've done. It just feels different without rooting in your feet. You're rooting in your knees. Squeeze your glutes. Legs are engaged. Start to find that extension in the front body. Heart lifts, maybe chin lifts. Maybe you go halfway to what your full range of motion is, just feeling this. 3. Ustrasana, camel pose. 2. And come on up. Hands come to the floor in front of you. Tuck your toes under and press back to downward facing dog. That is the counter pose to camel, neutralizing your spine. All right, the good news is now we're coming onto the floor. Come onto your back when you're ready. And plant your feet flat in front of you. Let's take a few breaths here. Oh. So we're going to come into excuse me, bridge pose. 2 ways to do this. Pamela, you might want to grab your blocks on. You can, if you're feeling frisky, if you're high energy, you can do dynamic bridges. We'll show you both. Or you can do supported bridges. We'll show you supported first. All you're going to do for a supported bridge is press your feet down and lift your hips up, grab a block or 2 and put it underneath your sacrum, and then just set yourself down on those blocks. Your lower spine is in a back bend, right? You have that extension in the front of your hips. Your upper spine is actually flexed. So a bridge pose is a mixed situation for your spine, but it feels real good in the low back. You can stay here. Take a nice long break in your supported bridge. Beautiful restorative pose, so nice. If you don't have blocks or want to do dynamic bridges, you can take the blocks out, and we'll do this with just glute power. So for just a moment for that same heels out orientation in your feet, nice hip width stance. I often hear yoga teachers give the cue of touch your heels with your fingertips, which Pamela can do. I can't do that. I have short arms and long thighs. It's never going to happen. Bring your heels as close into your body as you can. Theoretically, you're touching your heels with your fingertips. And then on an exhale, you're going to press your feet down, lift your hips up, and try to walk your shoulder blades together underneath you. If you have a lot of shoulder flexibility, maybe you can interlace your hands behind you. I like to grab the edges of my mat, and that will help me pull and feel the lift of your heart toward the wall behind you, right? You're lifting your heart toward your nose and past it. Get this beautiful arch in your whole back body. 3, 2, and slowly release. If that felt good, I recommend doing another 1 or 2, or coming into your supported bridge after. You can shimmy your hips around, shimmy your shoulders around. Beautiful bridging. All right. That's our back bending. If you want to bring your knees into your chest, give them a good squeeze. A very simple inversion. So we're going to do just a couple of inversions. Very simple inversion, which will feel good after all the back bending, is a happy baby. So you're going to bring your knees wide out toward your shoulders. And maybe you're just going to grab behind your knees and pull your knees toward your shoulders. If you have some flexibility in your back and your hips, you can reach up and grab your feet. You can grab your feet from the outside, from the inside. You can also take your peace fingers and grab your big toes. And let those knees fall wide. Now, if your chin is way jacked up off the floor, try to drop it down and keep the back of your spine long. If that's hard, go back to grabbing behind your knees. You can rock side to side here. Feels so good. Pamela's grabbing the back of her Achilles there, the back of her ankles. That looks really nice. You can straighten one leg and then the other. So an inversion is getting your legs up above your heart. Ideally, it's also getting your hips above your heart, and we'll talk about the benefits of that in just a second. Now, this is a beautiful low back opener of an inversion. And let's get those hips up a little higher. So grab your block or a bolster or a pillow, and we'll bring it under your sacrum like we had it in supported bridge. And just 1 will be enough for this. Now let your legs float up toward the ceiling. You might need to reposition the block so it feels really square underneath you. You have it. Oh yeah, you have it on a diagonal. If you have a hard block or a hard book, the edge of the block can feel like a little massage tool, and you should totally go with that as long as it feels good. Having that edge right into the attachments on the other side of your sacrum of your hip rotators might be delicious. Your feet can be together or apart, and Pamela, can you bring the block a little more underneath your sacrum? We want the sacrum to be flat. So you're tipped a little bit this way. See if you can bring your sacrum a little more flat.
Like that?
Even more. Bring the block more closer underneath you. There you go. You feel that? Like your whole sacrum landed on the block? Okay. So you want to see if you can get that sacrum flat on the block. Makes it easier to lift your legs up. You can also do this at the wall and let the wall do the work. If you have a strap, you can wrap, or a belt, you can wrap it around your thighs, and that's really relaxing. Okay, so think about the inner line of your legs lifting, and you can just let your arms drop. Just be relaxed on the rest of your body. Inner line of your legs lifting up, your inseams. And ideally, the feet here are going to be pointed, but your toes are flexed back toward you. And I'm sorry to tell you that the easiest way to telegraph how to do that in your feet is to call it Barbie feet. I've tried cueing that a million ways, and in our society, in the people who come to our studio, I could say point your feet and flex your toes, and nobody will understand what I'm saying. But if I say Barbie feet, they go right to it. So it's the only time anybody should ever say Barbie in a yoga studio, for sure. And then just relax. It's a little bit of work to keep your legs lifted, but the benefits of inverting are so many. First of all, your autonomic nervous system gets the message there's all these receptors in your neck. When all the fluid comes back into your upper body because you're inverted, your nervous system slows down your heart rate and slows down your respiration. Your blood pressure drops, and your body immediately becomes more relaxed. So inverting is a beautiful way to find some relaxation. If you're feeling really stressed, go to a wall. You can put your legs up on your bed with your knees bent, on the couch, on a table. Just inverting is a beautiful way to relax. If you're insomniac, invert before bed. Do this pose in bed, at the wall, or at your headboard before you try to go to sleep. It will help relax you. Another benefit of inverting is that it changes up the circulation in your lymphatic system, which is part of your immune response and helps regulate so many systems in your body. Changing up the ways that your lymphatic system works is really, really good for your health. So inverting 5 minutes is a great, great thing. You can take a happy baby right here in your Viparita Karani with your legs up, so you can let your knees drop down toward your shoulders. You might find this a little easier because your hips are already closer to your shoulders with that height underneath. You can take a straddle stretch, big wide V of your legs. Might feel good. You can hold your thighs or hold your feet. Anything you want to do here might feel really nice. Just bringing your knees toward your chest. Beautiful inverting. Hopefully you're already feeling how restful it is, especially after all that back bending. Alrighty, when you're ready, your feet can come down. You can take your prop out and find yourself in a final resting pose. Thank you so much for joining us for these classes. Feel free to share them. Feel free to email us with questions. nancy.bernhardt@gmail.com, info@bainunion.com. Happy to help you, happy to share what we know, and breathe easy. Namaste.